Do you feel like you're barely keeping your head above water? That no matter how hard you try, meaningful progress remains out of reach? Heather gets that. She battled an eating disorder for years before seeking help. Now in recovery, Heather is here to tell you that positive change is possible even when it doesn't feel that way. Join her as she shares openly about her struggles and small triumphs. Fair warning though, Heather doesn't hold back. Her candid story may trigger some. But for those wanting honesty, hope, and healing, this is 1% Better with Heather. The information and stories shared on 1% Better are based on host Heather's personal experiences with eating disorders and mental health challenges. Heather is not a licensed doctor, therapist, dietitian, or other health professional. Her advice and opinions should not be taken as professional medical advice. Please consult your physician or a qualified health provider regarding any medical or health-related issues. 1% Better also contains descriptions of eating disorders that may be triggering for some listeners. Discretion is advised.
Hey there, my little gappers, and welcome to 1% Better with Heather. Today, I have a very special guest, and I'm very excited. I'm a fan. I'm a fangirl. I'm fanning out. And I have Lucy of LV Recovery here with me. Hello, Lucy. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
I'm so excited. And I'm a huge fan. I started watching your account when I started recovery in 2023, and you've helped me a lot. A lot.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I would put your videos on loop just for it to sink into my thick skull. I'm like, if I just keep listening to it, it's got to sink in one day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's what I aim to do. I aim to help people. So, if it's helping you in any way, shape, or form, my job is done.
So why don't we just jump right into it? Why don't you introduce yourself and give us your backstory?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you say, I'm Lucy. LV Recovery is my coaching business name. I am an eating disorder recovery coach, and I'm also a registered mental health nurse. In terms of my backstory, so that's probably a good place to start. I struggle with an eating disorder myself, and that is why I do what I do today. I first started struggling when I was around 12, 13. Just for reference, I'm now coming up to the ripe old age of 32. So I know I don't look it. But yeah, that's when I first started struggling. And to cut a long story short, I struggled up and down until about my mid-20s. And that is when I really started to think, you know what, things have got to change. If I want to do something with my life, if I want to have a life, I've got to start making changes. I originally trained to be an actor. So I went to university first time round when I was 18, 19 to become an actor. That was what I was interested in. In a way, I think it really did help my recovery because it gave me an interest other than the eating disorder. Because for so many years, the eating disorder was my life. I had no interests. And then when I kind of figured out that, you know what, I really have a passion for acting, I really want to try and pursue this, it did give me an outlet. So even though obviously now I'm not an established actor, I don't regret going down that route because I think it did save me in a way. And I tried to give it a go, don't get me wrong. I moved to London. I, tried to become the next Bond girl, but, it didn't happen. But that's fine. I'm not bitter. That's fine. But actually, when I graduated with my acting degree, about a year or two into it, I kind of thought, you know what, I think this chapter of my life has come to an end. It served a purpose. It started to give me a life back. But now actually I'm starting to do better myself. I'm starting to really embrace recovery. I think moving forward, I want to do something to help people. If I'm going to put myself through the recovery process properly, I want to use this knowledge to help other people. So I kind of thought, what can I do? Probably, I probably won't be able to go back to university again. I've already been once, I can't have that much debt. You know what I mean? So I thought, I might just have to be maybe a support worker. And when I say just, I don't mean that in a degrading way, because they do an amazing job. But I never thought I'd be like a nurse or anything like that. And then lo and behold, I found out that I could go and do a master's degree and become a mental health nurse. And I started my degree in 2018 and graduated in 2020. And I've been working as a mental health nurse since then. And in the last year, just over a year, I would say, I started my coaching business. So it's been a long journey for me. There's been ups and downs. It wasn't straightforward. I know I'm saying that, in my, I would say late teens, early 20s, I started to properly, engage in recovery. But I've been through hell and back. But like I say, in a weird way, everything happens for a reason. And if I wouldn't have been through that, I wouldn't have been able to do this. So in a weird way, it is what it is. It's made me who I am today. And it makes me passionate about something. I'm so passionate about helping people. And, I like to think that I try and be the coach that I wish I would have had. Because when I was going through my recovery, there was no, well, there may have been, but I didn't see them, eating disorder recovery coaches. There was no TikTok. Instagram was hardly a thing. So I always try and be the person that I would have wanted to hear back in my recovery days. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's me.
So when you started recovery, were you put in a facility? Did you do it on your own? Were you in the hospital? What did that look like for you?
I've had a mix. So when I didn't want to recover, so when I was a teenager, I was put in inpatient. I was in a specialist unit 3 times and on a general ward twice. So you could say 5 times, but whatever you want to class as being inpatient. But I didn't want to recover. I was being forced into it, and that's why it didn't work. As I'm sure if you don't want it, everything can be forced upon you. But as soon as that's taken away, you're back to square one. So yeah, you name it, I've had it. I've had every type of therapy. But I would say that the thing that helped me most was myself helping myself, if that makes sense. I started to kind of think, the help I'm getting at the moment, or the help that I have had, it's not resonating with me. So I've got to do what works for me. I did start to look online, and there was, like I said, there was no recovery coaches per se, but there was. Do you remember, like, Tumblr and shit like that? That was not good, really. But there was pockets of hope. People talking about it on YouTube a little bit. Books. It was more books when I was kind of going through it, rather than blogs and channels. But at the end of the day, and again, I'm sure you know what you've got to do. Deep down, if you want to recover, you know what you've got to do. You don't really need anything or anyone to tell you. You have all the knowledge when you have an eating disorder. It's just applying it, isn't it? So I would say that when I properly started to recover, it was on my own. It was on my own. Obviously, I had the help from my family. I'm not trying to say I did it fully on my own. They were so supportive. But yeah, I think I made the most progress without any kind of external treatment. Yeah.
So I guess that leads me into my next set of questions here. Why recover? Because all of us who are in our depths of our ed are like, hell no. I remember I was put in the hospital. I was sickety, sick. I'm 5'10", was 84 pounds. Put on everything, had 2 weeks to live. I had a team of doctors look at me, were like, how are you alive? I'm like, I don't know. What school did you go to?
Yeah.
And I thought they were all crazy.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you're not.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't have a moment, because I know sometimes people think you have this light bulb moment, this one moment, this very kind of fairy tale recovery of, I had this moment, and then from then it was just, every day just got better and better. No, it wasn't that at all. It was a series of moments. And in terms of why recover, I was fed up. I started to see my friends have lives, get married, have children. I know that's still quite young in your early 20s, but still, I started to see people live. I started to kind of think, what am I doing? I've exhausted this eating disorder. It's not getting me anywhere. I had no relationships apart from my family. Friends had kind of drifted away, and I had nothing. And I just, in a way, I kind of thought, what have I got to lose? What have I got to lose here? I need to give this a go. And like I say, it wasn't I couldn't give you an exact day or time or anything, the date. It was just almost going into it blindly, going in scared, because you're never going to feel ready. That's what I tell all my clients. You're never going to feel ready. There's never going to be the right moment. There's always going to be something that's not right in the way. You do it next year, do it next week, and then the next week turns into another week and another week. So I was just fed up. I was really, and not even physically. I wouldn't even say like when I fully, properly started to recover, I wouldn't say I was at my worst physically, but mentally I was at my worst. I was depressed. I was just lifeless. And in a way, I kind of went into it thinking, maybe I'll just give this a go, see what happens. Almost still kind of thinking the eating disorder's there if I need it. And then the more kind of tastes of life that I got, I started to go to college. I was still kind of engaged in my eating disorder, but it was almost like, okay, I'm seeing different people. I'm seeing people from different walks of life. And then I went to university to do my acting degree. And, I was still kind of, the eating disorder was still there. But I was like, oh, okay, there's people that do stuff and you can have a life. Okay, this sounds quite good, actually. And it just kind of went from one thing to another until one day I was just like, I've almost gained so much life back. Why am I still holding on to a little bit of the eating disorder? It needs to go, because being in that halfway place is hell. That halfway recovered place, that's not good. And I didn't want to stay stuck there. So again, I was kind of just like, what have I got to lose? Let's go. Let's see. And I know a lot of people say like, oh, I've never met anybody that's recovered that regrets recovery. And I used to kind of think, oh yeah, everybody says that. But seriously, like I fully agree with that now. Like if somebody was to say to me, I'll give you £1 million to go back to your eating disorder, I would say, keep your money, please. I'm not going back to that. Yeah.
That kind of shocks me when you say that, because I have done recovery. Like I went into the hospital, did not work, by the way. Yeah. And then I started on my own, we'll say January 1st, 2023.
Yeah.
It was like December 31st or something. But I remember going to the doctor and be like, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hate recovery. Recovery sucks. This sucks. This sucks. I hate everything about it. I'm doing this because I couldn't walk up my stairs anymore. And like you, no, I'm done. I can't think. I can't do anything. I'm a mom.
Yeah.
I'm tired all the time. I don't know what planet I'm on.
Yeah.
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 And I'm like, I can't. And for the first little bit, I call it like the pink cloud effect, right? When you're first starting introducing food in again.
Honeymoon. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, okay, well, this isn't so bad. And, don't be me and weigh yourself.
Oh, no.
But I was weighing myself. Stupid. I know.
We're living with learn.
Right? But you're watching it go up a little bit. I'm like, I can deal with that.
Yeah.
I can deal with that. And then I don't know what happened to me, but it was like, I'm not even making it up. It was like 4 pounds a day. And I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
How can someone gain this much weight so fast? I'm like, this got to be wrong. And I'm like, no, just keep going. But I liked having tea with milk and sugar in it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love sandwiches. I was eating sandwiches, all the sandwiches in the land.
I don't blame
Cookies. Right? And I'm just like, but this sucks.
Mm.
So I always had a hard time when I would go see doctors and they'd be like, oh, you're doing great. Well, I don't feel great. Why am I being punished?
Yeah. This is it. Like, by no means am I saying that, you know, recovery is sunshine and rainbows. It's not. It's hard. And like what you were saying, weighing yourself. If any of my clients listen to this, they'll know that I bang on about it, but don't weigh yourself. You know, I always encourage people to not weigh yourself. If you've got to be weighed for medical reasons, don't look at it. You know, whatever you can do, because all it's doing is reinforcing that eating disorder. As soon as it sees those numbers, the eating disorder is never going to be happy with the numbers. And B, it's just almost, you know, I always say your brain is like a sponge and it soaks it up, and it's seeing the number and thinking, oh God, right, what I've eaten equals that much weight gain. I'm eating too much, or it's going up too quick. And it's like your body in recovery does crazy things, and you've got to let it do those crazy things. And if you look at the numbers, it's going to screw you over. It really, really is. Yeah.
Well, now I don't have a scale in my house.
Good.
It's gone.
Good.
But, you know, like right in the beginning, but then too, like, do you find a lot of people, or maybe even yourself, comparing your recovery to others? Because I was like, how are they still stick thin and eating like 1,000 pizzas?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it and I'm like gaining 1,000 pounds overnight.
Absolutely. You know, it's so, an eating disorder is so competitive, and I'm not a competitive person. You know, if you ask anybody who knows me, I'm not competitive. I don't care about winning games and whatever. But, you know, when I was struggling with the eating disorder, it made me so competitive with myself, you know, with the eating disorder. And yeah, if I was to, well, like I say, I did go into inpatient, you know, specialist eating disorder, and that just breeds, you know, like competitiveness. You know, you're constantly comparing yourself to the other patients. You're constantly looking at what they're eating. I think that was almost the equivalent of now looking on TikTok, you know, at other recovery accounts, and like you say, oh God, how can they eat that much? I mean, what I would say to that is, you know, don't believe everything you see. But also, even if they are eating that, everybody's body's different. So it doesn't really matter, because what you need to do for recovery is what you need to do. What they need to do is what they need to do. They might be at different stages. They might be telling the truth. They might not be. You have to take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, absolutely, the competitiveness is really difficult to navigate. I mean, I do encourage my clients to every month do an audit of their social media. You know, who are you following that's making you feel shit about yourself? Even if it's like not an eating disorder account, you know, even if it's a celebrity that, you know, maybe has the perfect body, but if it's making you feel rubbish about yourself, pause it. You know, you can always follow them back. You know, you're not offending them. So you have to really, really put on the blinkers and focus on yourself, and you know, stay on your own path, because everybody's different. Yes, you know, in recovery, there's similar things that everybody needs to do, but everybody's way of doing it, everybody's personal journey will be slightly different. And if you always compare your recovery journey to someone else, you're always going to find, well, your eating disorder is always going to find something, you know, that's not right, or that you're rubbish at that they're good at, and vice versa. Yeah.
So, and that's so true, because I remember, and I'm not ragging on this TV show. I love this TV show. It's called The OC.
Oh, yeah.
And it was from like 2004, right? And it's all these teenagers living in California, in Orange County. And it's funny. I love the show. But all these girls are like stick thin and wearing bikinis. And here's me eating my chicken salad sandwiches with the whole loaf of bread.
Yeah.
And I'm bawling, being like, I'm never going to be able to wear a bikini ever again. And it was just something that I thought would take me out of like thinking about my eating disorder, was pushing me into it. Yeah. So I stick with Gilmore Girls now and panda videos on TikTok.
Yes, absolutely. Make your environment recovery proof. But no, I know exactly the show that was on when I was younger as well. And yeah, I kind of feel like the the early 2000s was just so toxic for bodies. Everybody was probably underweight that was a celebrity. It was
heroin chic.
That's it. That's the one. Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit better these days. There's still not great things around, but yeah, if you're watching that, your eating disorders almost kind of comparing you to those actors and being like, yeah, well, if you eat this, you're not going to look like that. When, we don't know, maybe those actors have an eating disorder, maybe they don't, but what you eat has no impact on their bodies, and what they eat has no impact on you. You've got to do what's right for you. And if you kind of think, oh God, well, I'm not going to eat this sandwich because, I've seen so-and-so and they look that thin, it's only kind of keeping you locked in the eating disorder. It's not doing anything to them. They're still going to do their own life, look how they want to look. You've got to focus on your own life, and that's really hard in recovery. It really is to stay focused on yourself. It's the eating disorder gets I feel like this word can be overused, but let's just go with it. It gets triggered by everything, doesn't it? The eating disorder. Oh God, I can't watch this. I'm triggered. I can't look at someone at school, someone at uni. I always say to people, there's always going to be something in life that triggers you, so you can't avoid. I mean, don't get me wrong. If something's really unhelpful, then yeah, avoid it. But you can't avoid life, and you've got to almost become resilient to those triggers until one day they're not a trigger, until one day you're able to, like myself, I was triggered by, do you remember Mary Kate and Ashley? Do you remember them?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that takes me back. Like they were, I mean, I swear they have eating disorders themselves, don't they?
Oh yeah, they were in like facilities. I think that
there we go. There we go, absolutely. And they were like my life as a kid. And now, if I watch something and they're in it, I don't kind of think, oh my God, I want to go back to looking like them. I kind of think, oh dear, like they don't look good. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm able to. It's bizarre. Like it's like I'm a different person. I think having an eating disorder literally does make you a different person. Because the traits of an eating disorder are not my personality at all. I am a very caring person. I'm very, I like to think I've got a good sense of humour. Whereas when you have an eating disorder, if it was a person, it would have no sense of humour. It would be boring. It would be cruel, and it literally makes you a different person. And like I say, if I look at some things that I used to look at now, I kind of think, oh my God, like how awful, instead of like, oh, I want to be like that, because I'm happy with my life now. I wouldn't want to go back to that. And it's hard to get to this place. I'm not saying it like it's easy, but you've got to focus on the life that you want more than the body that you think you want. Yeah.
So, but that brings up my next question. So I always said, if you took a picture of me and chopped off my head at my sickest, I look like I came out of a World War II camp. I'll just say that, right? And I'd be like, oh my God. I would never equate it that it was me, because when I'm looking in the mirror, that's not what I see.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that, how that messes up our brain?
Yeah.
Like the body dysmorphia?
Yeah, absolutely. So are you kind of saying that, like, in a photo, you could almost see...
Oh, I would say that person's sick. What the hell's wrong with them?
Yeah.
But if my face was there, I'd be like, oh, no, I'm totally fine. Right.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, let's not forget, when you have an eating disorder, you're under eating. You're malnourished. So your cognition, your brain isn't functioning optimally. So we're gonna have a warped perception of how we look. Also, I think that because we live in our own bodies, 24 hours a day, we become very used to how we look. Therefore, it's not very shocking because we see it every day. We're living in that body. But I do think, and I think research is still being done on it. I do think it changes your brain chemistry, having an eating disorder. you see things or can't see things that are or aren't there. Like I say, if I were to look back now at myself at my worst, I would be like, holy shit, like, why didn't anyone tell me I look like a train wreck? Do you know what I mean? Well, they did, but I didn't listen. But
Right? There's that.
But in the moment, I had no idea I looked like that. I couldn't see it. And that's what makes recovery so hard, because if we could see it and we believed it, well, you know, we'd be like, oh God, I need to do something about this. But the eating disorder is so powerful. It's so consuming that we can't even see who we are. And, you know, like I say, I don't have the exact answer why that happens. But if you think about it logically, being, you know, not eating enough, not fueling yourself enough affects every cell in your body. So, of course, it's going to affect your brain. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's funny because my kids used to call me the Crypt Keeper. I don't know if you had Tales from the Crypt.
Oh.
It's this old show from like the late 80s, early 90s, and it was like a mechanical guy.
Oh.
Anyways, Google it
I
after.
will.
That's what my kids used to call me. It's not a really nice. I was like, what? But because I'm conceited. Like, how dare you talk to me like that?
Yeah.
But they weren't lying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny too when you're talking about like the eating disorder messing with our brain, and it's not a great personality to have. I agree. I'm pretty funny. I'm pretty witty.
Yeah.
I'm caring. I'm loving. I haven't killed anybody yet, so I'm a good person.
Good. You're doing good.
And,
yes.
Right. You know, golden rule, treat people on how you want to be treated,
Exactly.
kind of thing.
Exactly.
And I got into so many fights with people.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I will say this. I've got a sharp tongue. Yes. And I don't take a lot of bullshit. But in my eating disorder, I lost so many friends and people who wouldn't even want to watch the dumpster fire going on. And people just left. Yeah. And I don't blame any one of them. Everyone has a right to their mental health. Yeah, I wouldn't want to watch the dumpster fire either, right? Yeah. But at some point, when I was at my sickest, that was like fueling it. See, you're not livable. See, everyone's backing away from you. See, you're the asshole. See, if you were just better and I don't know, enough. If you were just enough. If you were just. So it's kind of like a hamster wheel of hell. Yeah.
And in a way, eating disorders as well, they like isolation. They almost, you know, like you lose people in your life. I don't care. The eating disorder is probably like, like you say, it reinforces that, like, almost you're not a good person, but also it's almost like, oh, well, thank God, that's another person not to contend with. That's another person that's not checking up on me either. I mean, I used to, and I say this quite regularly, and I'm not proud of it, but when I was at my worst, I literally I cared more about staying thin and not eating. I cared more about that than like my family. And if somebody would have said like, oh, right, okay, you've got two choices. Your family can get hit by a bus today, or you can remain thin. Which one would you choose? I hate to say it, I'd go for the latter. Do you know what I mean? And that is not me. Like,
you're going to be an orphan.
Exactly. It's just horrific, isn't it? Yeah. But it's a mental illness, you know. And that is not me. You know, it clearly changes you into someone you're not. And I get a lot of parents contact me, you know, saying like, what can I do for my kid? My kid's struggling with anorexia or an eating disorder. And I'm like, you know what? Just be a parent. Just show them that you love them, because, you know, they don't need another doctor. They don't need another whatever. They just want, you know, love. And, you know, and I'm so glad that, you know, my parents just did that for me, if you know what I mean. They didn't kind of try to be like a doctor or whatnot. They were just there to love and care for me, because I think deep down that's what we need. And I know it sounds like I'm going kind of off topic here, but it kind of comes back to, you know, keeping people in your life, you know. And if people try to almost, you know, they think they're helping, but if they kind of try to interfere and tell you what they think you need to do and blah blah blah, sometimes that can push people away as well. You can like be like, no, I don't want to be with you because you're telling me what to do. But if, you know, parents, loved ones, whatever, just show the person that's unwell, just show them love, because that's what they need. You know, and that is probably going to keep you in their lives more than you telling them what to do, because they'll try and push you away. The sufferer will try and push people away that almost try and jump on their backs and tell them what to do. Yeah.
It's so hard, because I remember thinking, lying in my bed when I was recovering, I'm like, I just want someone to lie in bed with me and tell me it's going to be okay. Yeah. But at the same point, I'm like, I don't want anyone around me. Right? It's like that double-edged sword, because I didn't want to alienate more people than what I already had. So I just did it. Like when I recovered on my own, I went into a bedroom like Howard Hughes, shut the door. I didn't come out for 6 months. I took my kids to school and I came home. Yeah. That was it. And it had to be done like that. I was miserable. I was crying all the time. But yeah. You know, I would have given anything for someone just to like lay beside me in the bed and watch Gilmore Girls. Yeah. So
yeah.
And give permission. And I saw this on your TikTok. Permission to eat. And I actually was going to stitch it, but it was a different way of looking at it. Was when I started recovery, I just wanted someone to say to me, it's okay. Eat the sandwich. Yeah. Just do it. Just eat. It's okay. Because I had such a fear of food. Like I would have a nervous breakdown. I would rather walk through like the pits of hell. Well, I think I was in hell, but like give birth to octopolis. That sounds a lot more fun. Yeah. Than sitting at a dinner table full of food. Yeah. No. Yeah. And have you seen that with other people just wanting permission?
Absolutely. I think it's tied very much to guilt. You know, because if you're struggling with an eating disorder, you feel guilty about eating for various reasons. Everybody kind of has different reasons why they feel guilty, but that's a very common emotion that people have, you know, guilt. And a way to ease that guilt sometimes can be an external person or whatever telling you to eat, because it's then like it's not you choosing it. So it's like, oh, okay, right, well, they've either told me to eat it or seen me eating it, so therefore it makes me feel like it's not me choosing it. Because if it's me choosing it, it's almost like, oh my God, I'm choosing to gain weight and that is against my life and I don't want to do that and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I think it's this permission seeking is almost to ease the guilt. And, you know, I think long term, you know, you need to do it without permission, obviously, because if not, it's just kind of like, if you're only eating if you're having permission, it's not you know, it's not realistic. But I think if it's a way in for somebody, you know, if you're starting recovery and you almost need somebody to almost say, like, you need to do this, like, you need to get this shit done, you need to do this, then fine, if it helps somebody at the beginning. But you've got to go into it knowing that at some point the baton has to be passed to you. You know, you have to take over. You have to be the one that wants recovery. And it comes back to me, because I always say this, like, you know, you can only recover if you want it. Whatever gets you into recovery, gets you into recovery. If you're doing it for your kids, if you're doing it for some sort of career or whatnot, fine. Whatever gets you in, gets you in. But there's got to be a point where you start to do this for yourself. And that's where permission can be really harmful in a way, because you're almost like eating with conditions. It's almost like another eating disorder rule, isn't it? Like, all right, I'll eat enough only if somebody tells me or if somebody's there with me or whatnot. And it's just kind of swapping a really, really bad habit for maybe a little bit of a less bad habit, if you know what I mean. But it's still a habit nonetheless. It's still keeping the eating disorder alive, isn't it?
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. So let's talk, as we're eating, we're gaining weight. I got edema. Lucky me.
Yeah.
So, oh man, I was pissed off, let me tell you. I'm like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
So not only am I gaining weight, and edema, for those who don't know, it's excess
Yeah.
swelling. I look like the girl from Willy Wonka when she turns blue and they roll her out of the room. That was me. Like, you couldn't even see my eyeballs. My cheeks
Puffy.
were so, and you can watch it on my TikTok because I documented everything. My cheeks were like puffy and like everything about me. Like, I'm normally a bony person. I've always been bony.
Right.
Eating disorder, no eating disorder. And like my hand was like swollen. Oh my God. It was
painful, I bet.
Hell. Oh, my skin itched. I asked my doctor actually, I'm like, I don't know if this can personally happen to somebody, but if it's going to happen to someone, it's going to be me. I thought my stomach was going to rip right open like in Predator or something. That movie Alien. Because like I couldn't wear clothes.
Yeah.
I'd wear my husband's shirts because I didn't want something touching my skin.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So like, why does that happen?
It's fluid retention. It's your body almost rehydrating, but to the extreme. You know, because when you aren't eating enough, when you're not eating or drinking enough, your body will be severely dehydrated, and as soon as you start replenishing that, your body's almost kind of thinking, great, like let's hold on to this, you know. Also swelling, even though it's not good, it's painful. Swelling usually happens when the body's healing. So it's, I want to say it's a good thing. It's not a good thing, but in a way, it's your body trying to do a good thing. And as you know, it goes away. It does go away. Yes, it's annoying. Yes, it's painful, but it's part of the process. It's part of the healing process. And if you think about it, you know, you've put your body through such extreme measures, you know, and I think sometimes people don't actually realize how much damage they have done to their body until they start recovery. Because the nature of the illness is to kind of think, oh, you're not ill enough. You know, you could lose more weight. You could eat less. You'll be fine. You're not dead. You're fine. And then when you actually start to, yeah, it's true though, isn't it? And when,
I know. Yeah. Well, you get this superhero. I always say I'm an X-Men. Nothing bad's going to happen to me. Look at me. I'm still here.
This is it, you know, and actually your body is really, really struggling. So when you start to give your body what it wants, it has to go through a process. It can't just bounce back, you know, and that just highlights the damage that you've done. It's almost like in reverse. You see the damage that you've done when you go through recovery because everything's like broken and needs repairing, and, you know, all sorts happens, like your digestion shit, your skin can break out, your hair some people's hair starts falling out before it gets better, you know. They start eating more, their hair's falling out. They're like, Lucy, what's going on? I thought my hair's supposed to grow back. I'm like, it's shedding, it's getting rid of the dead stuff, you know. But yeah, the edema is kind of your body trying to rehydrate and repair.
It's almost like a sunken ship and you're bringing it up to the surface. Like if we were to raise the Titanic, it would fall and crumble, right? Because it needs the underneath to stay full. So now you're bringing everything up to the surface. So that makes a lot of sense.
I like that analogy.
You got it.
Yeah.
Like that makes a lot of sense.
I like that.
Yeah. Like, but it still
it does. And, you know, if you are going through that, you need to, if you get it, did you get it in your legs? I got it in my ankles a lot, you know, my lower legs.
Oh, my feet were horrible.
I couldn't get my socks on. They were like digging in, and yeah. But
I couldn't wear my shoes, and I got size 12 feet. I'm tall.
Oh, really?
And I couldn't wear my shoes, and it's winter in Canada.
Oh, dear.
So I'm wearing sandals.
Yeah, not practical.
In the snow, like a moron.
Oh dear, this is it, and you don't kind of think of these things when you're embarking on recovery. You know, you don't kind of think, oh, I won't fit in my shoes. I mean, it just sounds kind of bizarre, doesn't it, really? But it just goes to highlight how much damage you've done to your body, and your poor old body is just trying to survive. You know, it doesn't realise that you're pissed off because you can't fit your shoes. You know what I mean? But what I was going to say is, put your feet up. If it's in your legs a lot, raise them. That helps the fluid to kind of move. But like everything in recovery, the best thing you can do is keep eating, keep going with it. Because if not, you're going to either stay stuck in that phase or you're going to go back and then go through it again. It's going to happen. You're going to move through it. The only way through is through. Yeah.
And it's funny when you're saying that about all the dehydration, because when I was in the hospital, I was hooked up to everything. Yeah. And when I did it on my own, I could have drank oceans. I was so thirsty. Yeah. And I was saying to my husband, I'm like, I don't remember this the first time. He's like, no, because you were hooked up to an IV. But I could not get enough liquid in my body.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I did.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be dehydrated because, of lack of nourishment. But also, when you start to eat more food, carbohydrates need water, need fluid to be digested, so you retain, and I don't say this to kind of worry anybody, but, just the digestive process of carbohydrates, it needs water to be digested properly. So your body, if you increase your food intake, you need to increase your fluid intake as well. Our bodies are, it's something strange, like 80% water or something, we need more fluid than we think we do. And like I say, in recovery, we're not only rehydrating our bodies, we're also having to digest the food, because hopefully if you're in recovery, you're eating more food and you need the extra fluid to digest that. So yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? How you don't realize how dehydrated you are until you actually start the process. It's like a switch is flicked on in a way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It was over, like, it wasn't like the first day, chugging water. It was just like, but a week in, it's like, what is happening? Yeah. Like, I just could not get enough. So let's go with that. So we're eating, and now we're going to, if you're lucky, you get edema, but now you're going to get, and I got it, the stomach bloat. I was bigger than when I was pregnant.
Yeah.
How do we
I can believe it.
Keep going through that? Because let me tell you, it was not fun around here.
Oh my God, absolutely. It was the bane of my life. Absolutely. It's your body again, is not used to having a good amount of food in it. If you have restricted your food intake, not only has your body got used to less food, but your muscles and your organs, your intestines and whatnot, and your stomach and muscles, their organs, they will have wasted away. They will have stopped functioning properly. So when you start putting in more food, your body's kind of like, oh God, we're not used to this. We need to learn. We need to learn how to digest food again. So you're going to be everything. You're going to be bloated. You're going to have constipation. Then you're going to have diarrhea. I hate to break it to people, but it's going to happen. Your body is tuning up. It's trying to function again. Also, your body needs digestive enzymes to break down food and digest it. If you're not eating enough, you're not going to be making enough enzymes, because enzymes are made by energy. They're not just made out of thin air. They need energy to be made. A lot of people tend to think they're allergic to certain foods or intolerant. I'm intolerant to gluten. I'm intolerant to dairy. And I'm like, are you, or is your body just a little bit, screwed up? Do you know what I mean?
Well, and can we talk about that for a sec? Because I swear I got, like, I'm Polish-Ukrainian, right? Welsh. So I live on carbs, meat, potatoes. That's my DNA. And I could not eat a potato to save my life. I was sicker than a dog. And I'm like, what is happening? Certain breads, I love bread. It took me forever to figure out what bread I could have. Like, gone was going to the grocery store. Now I'm going to the fancy dancy bread shops here in Vancouver.
Awesome.
That's fun. Might as well just, like, trade in my firstborn.
Exactly. Money.
And just so I can have some freaking bread.
Yeah.
But is that a thing? Because I've known some people who became celiac after this because their stomach couldn't break stuff down.
That is, if that doesn't highlight how severe this illness can be to your body, I don't know what does. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I would say always get checked out by a doctor if you think that it's carrying on and, you know, you're going through recovery, and I mean proper recovery, and things aren't getting better, then yeah, please get checked out. But most people have digestive issues, and then towards the end of the recovery, or once they're fully healthy, shall we say, they're able to eat, you know, what they could before. Kind of a rough guideline is if it didn't irritate you before you got ill, it's probably not going to after. It's just your body making those enzymes. You know, lactose is quite a common one. I actually was, I don't know if diagnosed is the right word, but they said I was lactose intolerant. And I think it was almost like a semi-lactose intolerance, because now I can have it and it's okay. But when my body was in a worse state and not making the enzymes, it forgot how to make the lactase enzyme. And it took for me to almost teach my body again how to make that again. Because some people kind of think, oh, right, well, I'll just cut it out. But actually, if you cut it out, then your body's never going to have a chance.
It's not learning.
Exactly. You've got to persevere. And like I say, if you persevere and really hand on heart, you know, go for it, and it's still no better, then yeah, get checked out by all means. But in a way, I kind of feel like sometimes people's eating disorder, should I say, jumps on that and thinks, oh, well, I'm lactose intolerant, or I'm gluten intolerant. Right, well, I've got to avoid that. And it's almost like a form of restriction in a way. But life without gluten and lactose, if you don't have to avoid it, is a sad life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that. And, you know, and what helped me, I just started looking at, I'm like, why is this happening to me, Heather? And looking at babies, you know, when you have a baby, they're squishy, blah, blah, blah. And then they start, like, when they're like 1 and you start introducing food. A lot of kids, they get sick. They don't like the taste of something. It's like being reborn, right? Babies all have that pudgy belly, but eventually it all goes away when they start walking and running and whatever, right? But they're all bloated. And I'm like, I'm a baby again. My body is like learning food. Yeah.
That is it. I think I've said before, like, recovery is like being reborn in many ways than just one. Like, physically, yes, but also, you know, your personality almost. Well, not personality, but your likes and dislikes might change. You know, what you thought you might like, you don't anymore, because, you know, going through recovery is a process. It's not just restoring weight and that's it. It's a mental, emotional and physical process. And yeah, you've got to almost start from scratch again and be the person that you were always meant to be, without the eating disorder. But just going back to what you were saying about like, it's like being a baby. I always say to people, because a lot of people worry about, you know, when they're restoring weight, like, will it be all fat, you know, or oh, am I going to get my muscles back? You know, oh, I'll have to go to the gym. I'm like, no, slow down. Because if you think about babies, you know, they don't go to the gym, but they build muscle, because your body has like almost a certain amount of fat, muscle, bone, tissue that it wants to have to be optimal. And if one of those is below that, the weight you restore will go towards that. You know, it's not like, oh, all the weight's going to be fat. Like, yeah, some will be fat because we need fat on our bodies. Fat is not a bad thing. But you don't need to be going to the gym to restore your muscles. Like, give your body credit. It can do amazing things. Yeah.
So we're gaining all the weight. We're doing all this. And now here's the hot topic. Set point. Yes. And set point is never what you think it's going to be. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it's a mad one to get your head around, and it's not talked about enough. I don't know about where you live, but in the UK, it's, if you go to kind of like traditional treatment, if you know what I mean. I think some places have got better. Don't get me wrong. I'm not tarnishing everybody with the same brush, but it's very much get to a minimum healthy BMI, you know, and it's like, right, okay, off you go. You're in the healthy zone. See you later. But as we know, it's very, very rare that somebody's going to be healthy at a BMI of 18.5. Somebody's set point weight is 9 times out of 10 going to be above that. And that's hard to accept. It is. Yeah.
Well, especially because, sorry, if you, I don't know about for everyone else. I know for me, before eating disorder, my healthy weight, I was normal healthy weight. Shame on God.
Yeah.
Like you think you're just going to end up right back where you were and nothing happened and this is all a bad dream. But I don't know, like that was like a good 30 pounds, let me tell you.
Yeah. And the thing with set point as well is it depends what age you were unwell, and what age you become well again, because, you know, your set point at age, you know, like myself, at age 13 is not going to be your set point at the age, you know, 30. So some people kind of think, oh, if I get back to my pre-ED weight, that's all I need to do. And sometimes not necessarily, especially if you're younger. And it is scary to walk into the unknown, isn't it? You know, it's like I would say most people don't kind of know what their set point is. So it's like, oh my God, how will I know? How will my body kind of, when will it stop? If I don't make it stop, it'll just keep gaining weight forever and ever. But your set point, your body wants to be at it. That's what you've got to remember. Your body wants to be at it and it will fight to be at it. And it's a range as well. It's not a set number. You know, especially as females, our weight fluctuates, you know, to do with the time of month or whatnot. You know, we're humans, we're not robots. But, you know, you've got to almost give your trust back to your body and let it find it itself. And that is really, really hard to do. I do appreciate that. Yeah.
It's so hard because I think we all have this fear of we're all going to be on that TLC show, like 5,000 pound sisters or whatever. I'm like, I'm going to be the next TLC sensation. It's not going to stop. But that's Ed. I call him Slick. Freaking you out. He's all. It's going to stop.
Yeah.
Right.
It will. It will. And I always get people to think about somebody in their life. Everybody will know somebody, whether it be a friend, family member, whatever, somebody that's had a healthy relationship with food all through their life. They will have always been at kind of a similar weight. You know, their body wouldn't have changed. Obviously, you know, when you grow, your body changes. But, you know, they wouldn't have yo-yoed with their weight, but they would have been able to eat what they want when they wanted it. They have a very healthy relationship with food. That is a good example of, you know, your weight not keep going up and up and up forever. And the reason, you know, the main thing that is going to get you to your set point and keep you there is having a healthy relationship with food. Because if you have a healthy relationship with food, you can't really go wrong, because you're fueling your body what it wants, when it wants it. And a lot of people kind of hear that and think, oh God, but my body's wanting, like, I don't know, 12 chocolate bars in one day. Like, that's going to make me overweight and be over my set point and whatnot. But remember that, you know, your hunger and your appetite will, when I say change, I don't mean like, oh, you'll go, you know, you'll only want to eat like a salad. That's not what I mean. But in recovery, our bodies are in recovery. They want and need a lot of food. Once we are fully healthy, once we have restored our weight and your body is safe and it knows that there's no restriction, it's got no reason to have that such extreme level of hunger, you know. So I think people almost think, oh God, I'm going to have extreme hunger forever. My weight's going to keep going up forever. And it's like, if you listen to it and honor it, it won't, because it will trust you. And then it'll think, oh, don't need to send out massive signals anymore. Just, you know, I trust her. She'll eat when she wants. She'll eat enough. She does what we tell her to. Fabulous. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, and extreme hunger, oh, that's everyone's like fear, right? but is it as extreme as we think it is? Because I was thinking about this, and when you're not eating and you're eating like a bird, if that, your delusion of portion sizing is like not helpful at all, right? And that took me a long time to figure out, what does a portion size look like? Because to me, a large fries from McDonald's looks like all the fries in the land, right? Like, how could someone eat that? And a normal person, laughs, right? And we can eat 5 of those. What? Right?
Yeah.
So training your brain again to know what portion sizing looks like.
Yeah. It's a tough thing, because your brain and body will. The thing is, extreme hunger is mental and physical hunger as well. And your mental hunger is always going to be more extreme, I think, and from working with people, than physical. Because physical hunger, our bodies physically can only fit in a certain amount of food, whereas mental hunger kind of has no limit because it's mental. So, you can be physically full, but because your body knows that, overall you haven't been eating enough and you're still maybe underweight, you're still not eating enough for your body, it's still going to make you think of food. So we can eat, like what you say, a large amount. We can eat 3, 4, 5 boxes of fries in one go and we can be physically full, but we can still be hungry because our bodies overall know that we're not quite there yet. So your body's almost like, your brain, should I say, is almost like being really like over worried. It's like, but remember that you still need to eat more. Do you know what I mean? So I think portion sizes, we get scared because we think, oh my God, I can eat 5 of these. That's not normal. I should be able to only eat 1. But again, it's dependent on your stage of recovery. At the end stage of recovery, when you are fully recovered, you will maybe want 1. And even if you don't, maybe you want 2, whatever, that will be what will be. But you have to remember the stage of recovery that you're in and not kind of think, oh God, why can I eat 5 and they only eat 1? Do you know what I mean? Different paths. Again, it comes back to that comparison thing, doesn't it? Like, don't compare what you're eating, especially if you're in extreme hunger, because it's going to be a hell of a lot more than your partner who has never had an eating disorder in their life. Doesn't mean that you're overeating. It's just, relevant to your needs in the moment.
Yeah. And that night eating, that drove me insane. Every 1 o'clock every morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm in my freezer getting the best bran muffins ever. But if I didn't have that bran muffin, I wasn't going back to bed. I wasn't sleepy. It's so, they're good. I love, and they're from like Safeway, like the best place to get bran muffins. But annoying at the same. I was like, seriously.
Oh God, seriously. Absolutely. And that is extreme hunger, but it's also your body almost being like, no, don't sleep. We haven't had enough energy to sleep. Because your body, again, people forget, you need energy to sleep. When you're sleeping, that's when your body is doing deep repair work, because it's got the time to do it, because you're not doing anything else. That's when it's really healing your organs, doing a deep clean, really. And if you haven't got enough energy to do that, it's going to wake you up and get you to go and eat, And I imagine once you had that muffin, you could get back to sleep.
Oh, instant. It was like in a coma.
Yeah. It's like, job done, thanks, I'll sleep now. Yeah. That's what you've got to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. It was just like turn off the switch, done. And then out. But and when you're sick, you're not sleeping either. But oh my gosh, I could talk to you for hours. I need you to come back.
Absolutely, I will.
So let's plug your business and tell the people where can we find you on all your social media and your website.
So I am at LV Recovery on Instagram and TikTok. I am more present on TikTok. I put out a video every day. I try to, 9 times out of 10. And my website is www.lvrecovery.com. I have 2 kind of services at the moment in terms of my coaching. I have an intensive program that runs for 1 month, and then I have my classic coaching, which is just rolling. And yeah, there's details on my website about both. Please get in touch with me if you have any questions or you just want to chat or anything. I'm very casual. I'm very, very open. I like to talk to people. So reach out if you've got any questions or anything. I do this to help people. So I'm here.
Well, and I love your TikTok because people basically write in questions and then you answer them on your TikTok, which is so helpful because you're not alone in this, my friends. If you think you're the only one going through it, you're not. Just a bunch of people not talking about it.
Absolutely, right? But yeah, I like to interact with people. I like to kind of build a positive community. Like I said, kind of at the beginning, TikTok does have a bit of a bad rap for eating disorder stuff. And I want to try and make sure that there's just like your accounts as well, there's a positive space where people are putting good stuff out there that they can trust and get motivation, inspiration, or whatever. Yeah.
And truth and scientific fact about it, not just someone making stuff up. I love the science behind it. Again, if anybody's worked with me, I really do talk about the science a lot because that's what helped me. Like, that helps me understand things instead of, kind of thinking, am I just going crazy? What's happening to me? Why is my body doing all these weird things? It's scary. If you don't know why, it's scary, like the edema. But if you learn about it, I'm not saying it makes recovery like 10 times easier, but it just helps, I find. It helps to kind of think, I know why this is happening. That makes sense. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can put up with this for the sake of recovery. Yeah. I can't thank you enough for coming, Lucy.
Thank you for having me. I should be thanking you.
I really want you to come back.
That's all for this episode of 1% Better. To continue the conversation, head over to our website at www.1percentbetter.ca, where you can access more stories and resources. We'd also love it if you subscribed and left us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And remember, friends, progress takes patience, perspective, and sometimes a little help from people who get it. So be kind to yourself and others as we work to get 1% better every day. We'll see you back here next week.